So we're live, and this week I have COVID. I think I've had it before, maybe a year and a half ago. So, I mean, it is what it is. It sucks. The headaches, the muscle aches, the sore throat, a little bit of a cough, being on the toilet, all that kind of stuff. Not the best. Um, I don't even know if this will go out to my audience because I put the word COVID in the title, and I know how much YouTube likes to silence COVID. We actually are back on our nice golf course in this house that we're renting. We're gonna stay here for a month just because all of us got COVID. The kids were sick for a day, and we're completely fine. So this whole push to vaccinate children, this whole push about like the kids, they're totally fine. Like my 3 kids, including my baby, all fine. My wife breastfeeds, so she'll pass on, or already has passed on antibodies. And yeah, life's good. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would say it's a 6. When I was about 8 years ago, I had a much worse cold and flu than this. So it's not the worst I've ever had. It's bad. Like I get sick 2-3 times a year with my kids, literally crawling on store floors and like licking the handlebars on carts. Like that's the 3 kids I've got. I try my best to hand sanitize them and, get them to wear masks and shit, but like they're kids, right? Like if you have 3 kids, it is what it is. But this has been pretty shitty. Like I had to pop extra strength ibuprofen just to sleep. That's how painful the muscle aches in my back were. There's just, it's pretty bad. Like it's, I would say it's definitely not worth the lockdowns and the overreaction, but like try to avoid it if you can. The good news is I'm now immune for a year. The data shows that between 12 and 15 months post, I'll be immune. So that's pretty sweet. And the good news is I've shared on Instagram, like Rosehart, what's been going on. And I had like 30 or 40 people reach out to me and be like, hey, I've had COVID. I've had COVID. I've had COVID. I've had COVID. I have COVID now. Thousands of people have it and are fine. None of them are dying. Hardly anyone is ended up in the hospital. If you're old, sure. If you have comorbidities, okay, yeah, you got a bunch of other stuff going on. A strong breeze might knock you into the hospital, right? But if you're healthy, like, it sucks. There's no doubt it sucks. We're just trying to quarantine here, and it's a good place to be. At least I have it in Florida, and the weather's decent. There was a cold front there, but now the warm front's come in. So here's a little pool, little floaties. Anyway, what have I been up to in the last week? Well, before I got COVID, I was tossing out offers. We tossed out 3 offers, collectively over $10 million in real estate. One of them I'm a backup offer. The other one they countered us, and the other one we're still waiting to hear if they'll counter us. I'm got an LOI in on a 4th building, so there's definitely a lot of plays to be made down here. I still don't know what the future holds for the Rosehart family. Like, are we going to end up in Florida? We're going to end up in, the Bahamas, in Puerto Rico, in Costa Rica? I don't know. Now that I have immunity, I can also travel. A positive test for 180 days is the same as being vaccinated. So, in fact, it's actually superior, but eventually the data will catch up to the politicians, and they'll eventually start making decisions based on data and not feelings and fear. But yeah, I mean, worst case scenario, nice 18-foot ceilings in here at least. One thing that's nice about Florida is they have nice ceilings. Yeah, I'll be in Florida for the rest of the winter. I don't know, I do miss my bed at home. But yeah, it's here, see how we like it. We are contemplating, I don't know if it's any better. Yeah, I don't know. The Wi-Fi here is pretty shit, I'm gonna be honest. US infrastructure is lagging quite a bit, I've noticed, just in general. Can you guys hear me now? Is it better? Not better? Hello? I'll raise it higher. If I hold it up higher, maybe it'll get a better signal. Yeah, I mean, the house I'm renting comes with the internet, so I don't have a control over that, but can you guys hear me? Hello? Better? Worse? My arm's getting tired. Ugh. I'm holding it way up. Okay. Today will be short. I do feel like shit. So, this is like, I'm on day 3, so I'm on the worst of it. This is like when it ramps up the worst. So the headaches are the worst right now. The muscle aches from the tips of my shoulder blades down to my lower back are just intense. I'm on the toilet like 6 times, 8 times a day. Just all the brutal shit. My throat's like raw as hell. One nose is stuffed. I got a bit of a cough. It hasn't really got into my lungs that bad, but luckily I have really strong lungs. So typically when people get respiratory infections, they don't bother me so much. So that part seems to not really be bothering me. My wife is having a lot of issues. I think she might have a blood clot in her leg, but it's minor. She's, she got over it. And she's having a little bit of respiratory issues, but she'll be fine. She's healthy. We're young, like life's all good. She does, I think, have a bit of asthma, but she'll be fine. We're monitoring it. If we have to get medical attention, we can, not a big deal. We could also look into like the new Pfizer COVID pill if we wanted to, or right now it's manageable. It's like she's saying it's like a 5 or 6 out of 10, right? And if it got to like an 8, then we would look to get, better options. Some things you can do from home though, to protect yourself. Zinc, like crazy. Like you should be taking 3, 4, 5 zinc tablets a day. I'm taking 5,000 IUD of vitamin D. I'm doing, like 6 to 8 vitamin C's a day. We're doing the sambucol elderberry syrups. We're doing a little bit of everything, right? Like I've got a whole naturopathic remedy going, and I'm noticing a difference with that. Ibuprofen is definitely necessary with the muscle pain. But yeah, we'll get through it. Not the end of the world. Thanks for the comment, Jonas. I'm letting it grow up, man. I'm financially independent. I can do what I want. I don't have to cut my hair for no one. Fuck y'all. I've wanted to grow my hair out, and you know what? I may only have 20 or 30 years of good hair left, so why not grow it out? I lost my train of thought, but yeah, Florida's good. I don't know. We're still trying to decide if we could ever live here or not. I mean, we could live here, but like, do we want to live here? Of all the places in the world to live, is this the top of the short list? And it's tough. Analysis paralysis. There's so many options and so many things to think through. That's the goal, Jonas. I'm trying to blend in. It's called culture assimilation, bro. Florida man. Caught out on the freeway naked. You guys heard of the Florida man title? Every single news article is like, Florida man did this. Florida man, like, naked in person's house. Florida man stabbed person. Yeah, I'm gonna beat it. Thanks, Jimmy. Hey guys. Hey, how you doing? Default name. Sorry, I missed the beginning. Did you? Yeah. Saw a Reddit post of concerned parents for their kids' health because of COVID. For return to school, people don't realize that kids will be just fine. Yeah. So the lion's share of the research that I've done is that like 99 out of 100 kids are sick for less than a day. It's my kids fully exposed, and yet, really Emma got a sore stomach. Like it was more like a gastro for her, and then she recovered. Our baby has a bit of a cough, but overall fine. Overall, not that big of a deal. The kids really are taking this well, I would say, much better than we are. As we know, like age is a big factor in how this plays out. So if you're old and unhealthy, then it's going to be worse for you. And so we should protect those who are at risk. And like, if you're 70 years old, you shouldn't be allowed to go out and eat a dinner unless you want to take the risk. Forget protecting the kids. Like of all the things we can do, the kids are the ones that are the least at risk. They should be in school. They should be living. I'm not going to expose them. Who cares? I hope my child gets COVID instead of the flu. It's less deadly. Like, fuck, the fear machine is just brutal right now with people just sharing, and the government sharing misinformation, right? When we look at the data, what we see is it's not that deadly. It's not that scary. It's a fucking cold. I mean, it's a big overreaction for a cold. Protect yourself, guys, sure. Like, if I have to go anywhere, I've got like full N95 mask on. I'm washing my hands. I'm not trying to share what I've got with anyone. And like, people should do the same. If you have any symptoms at all, fucking put on a mask. Like, don't be an ignorant asshole. Be like, I'm an anti-masker. It's like, if you have any symptoms at all, put a fucking mask on. I'm sorry. Like, I'm okay with like fucking knocking people to the ground and putting masks in their face if they have symptoms. But if you're asymptomatic or you're trying to protect yourself, masks don't do a whole lot to protect you. It's more you protecting your germs from everyone else around. That's just, anyway. It does a little bit to help you if you want to wear a mask, protect yourself a little bit. But it's mostly about the person who has symptoms stopping the spread. The little water droplets when they talk and sneeze and cough and all that kind of shit. All right, guys. Next question was, yeah, sorry about the internet, guys. Someone says, I had COVID after partying in New Year's. It felt like a regular cold. Yeah, I mean, I've gotten dozens of messages like that. Some people say it was really bad for them. Other people have taken ivermectin. Do what you want to do. I guess Pfizer's made a version of ivermectin, like a pill you can take, an antiviral therapeutic. So that's good. Um, did you hear today that the UK Prime Minister, Boris, went on and said that they're removing all restrictions? How amazing is that? That's a step forward, right? Maybe the US will say, wow, we're a free country. We're going to adopt what the UK is doing. Maybe Canada's like, wow, let's see what's going on with our parent country. They're opening up. So I don't know. We'll see if, I don't think Trudeau will do that. I think he likes the control. I think he likes the power. I think I'm gonna have to leave Canada as a result, just because I can't stand in a country that restricts people so freely. Like if you're vaccinated, I mean, not that the vaccine does much for the new variant. It's like 25% to 35% effective. Some are saying almost no effect at all after 83 days. So if you've been vaccinated 2 months ago, like you're basically you have no immunity. So anyway, just crazy. But yeah, I'll do some more questions, then I'm gonna wrap it up because my arm's getting tired and I don't have the stamina that I normally do, just because this COVID's weakened me a wee bit. Yes, I'm in Florida. Texas has no zoning requirements. I don't know about that, Mr. Pipton. I'm sure there must be some zoning requirements in certain municipalities. That would be just wildness if there was zero zoning. You could build like low-income housing beside mansions and like 20-story buildings in suburbia. Like, no, there for sure would be zoning requirements. I mean, maybe not. I could be wrong, but that seems like a planner's nightmare. A municipal planner's nightmare. You'll get better soon. I will. I mean, it's COVID. It sucks, but it'll be fine. No big deal. Mike, what income or wealth level is Luxfire in your opinion? Thanks. Well, William, considering that gas, food, and housing are up almost 35% year to date, that number for me has jumped a third. So where I thought Luxfire was over 10 million net worth, I think it's probably closer to like 14 million now to be like Lux, like a proper Lux. Unfortunately, my portfolio has underperformed the S&P 500. No, my real estate portfolio has outperformed, but my stock portfolio has underperformed, so that sucks. I've matched the TSX, the Toronto Stock Exchange, which is what I'm benchmarked against. So unfortunately, the TSX has underperformed the S&P 500, so I've underperformed the S&P 500, but that's because I'm not benchmarking against the S&P 500. Unfortunately, inflation has risen faster than the Toronto Stock Exchange, the TSX. So my investments haven't outpaced real inflation. They're saying inflation's back in 7%. That's a joke. Go to the grocery store, chicken's $40, like where it was 20 before. Go to the gas pump. Try to find anything for rent. Look at any houses listed in Ontario, Canada. They're all 40% up right now. We're talking 40% real inflation. And the average person, groceries, gas, and housing are 2/3 of where they spend their money. So 2/3 of where they spend their real money to live is up 50%. But they're not weighting housing effectively. They're not weighting gas, fuel effectively. They're adjusting CPI, so it looks like it's nice and low. Because guess what? TVs have gotten cheaper per inch of TV. Well, guess what? Let's throw that in the CPI and weight it pretty heavy. Like, it's fucking stupid. It's scary. It's scary is what it is. I think we could end up in a deflationary cycle too, where cash is king. So I know cash is dangerous to hold on to right now, but I can see a play where cash is super interesting in a deflationary environment. So we'll see. Next question. Mike, what are some non-starters for buying investment property in London for you? I mean, I wouldn't even buy an investment property in London right now. I'm just gonna rest this against the wall. It's only using half my arm muscle now. Hold that at 7 feet high. So. Whew. With COVID, I got these insane fucking back pains. All right, so I wouldn't even buy a property in London, but if I was going to, I would try to find something that cash flows or that I could make cash flow. So for the most part, that rules out any single family houses, mostly rules out any condos because the condo fees, lack of control, and no cash flow. It rules out most of the good areas in London, most of the A locations don't cash flow unless you could find an Airbnb play. I don't want to buy something that can only cash flow with Airbnb, but to be honest, I don't know if I want to do it any other way in London. I'll give you an example. On February 7th, I have to go and or February 8th or something, I have to double check. I have to go to a landlord-tenant board hearing for a property we sold 2 years ago. I'm going because an investor partner was served 2 years ago by a tenant who gave us an N11 and left willingly 3 weeks after we bought the building. And she's going after us for $10,000 damage because she says she didn't feel comfortable living in her house anymore and had to leave willingly because another tenant was harassing her. Why is that a me problem? What? Why? We sold the building 2 years ago. Why am I having to spend, and now it has spent 2 days, they've adjourned the trial twice. Now I have to spend a third day waiting for, you have to sign it at 9 o'clock or you automatically lose. So you have to sign it at 9 o'clock or 8:45 and wait all day until 3:30 for your trial. And they can just keep booting it off and booting it off. That's part of how shitty Ontario is. There is no amount of money that makes me want to own rental properties and do long-term tenancy in Ontario, period. The rules are shit for landlords. Airbnb all the way. You can charge your credit card if they damage it. You can cancel their listing. Here's what's nice in Florida. If you have an asshole tenant and, whether you're vaccinated or not, I know lots of people who are vaccinated who are extremely sick with COVID. And I know lots of people who are unvaccinated who are just fine with this new variant. The vaccination doesn't do really anything for this new variant. You could go take a bit of research for yourself. Like, I implore you to go do some Googling and look at some of the data. The truth is that it almost does nothing, especially if it's been more than 83 days since your last vaccination. And some of the boosters now aren't even effective against the new variants. They're chasing the new variants. It's the fucking cold. It's the flu shot. I've never had a flu shot in my entire life, ever. I don't give a shit. Strong immune system, be fine. But guess what? So will everyone else. 999 out of 1,000 will be just fine. Yes, old folks need to protect themselves, or old people need to protect themselves. Those who have, many at-risk issues, of course. But yeah, back to London real estate. I have no interest in long-term rentals, period. Student rentals, okay, because students will leave after a year or two, and you never end up at the landlord-tenant board with students. I've never seen it. Most of the students I'm renting to want to have a future. If you have time to go to the landlord-tenant board and fight, you're a loser, period. If a tenant has time to go to the LTB, they're a loser. It's low value use of time, period. So if you start renting to losers, then they drag you down into their drama. You have to deal with all that. I don't even want to cater to that market, period. In Florida, though, if you have a bad tenant and they just come off their 1-year lease and they're on month to month, guess what? You say next month your rent's up 70%. Pay it or leave. They don't pay it, you evict them. Done. That's how it fucking should be in Ontario. You can increase it to market rent whenever you want. If you have a tenant you don't like, you increase it to above market rent. You shouldn't have to have a client, because a tenant is a client. You're providing a building and a service. You shouldn't have to interact with someone you don't like, who's ignorant to you. Here in Ontario, you can have someone, literally, I've had tenants like fucking piss on your leg, figuratively speaking, and literally speaking, do the most disrespectful garbage things, and there's nothing you can do as a landlord. You have to say, thank you, come again, thank you. I'm so glad that you're my client. Like, that's the environment in Ontario. So for me, a non-starter in London is buying a building with tenants in it, period. I want it fully vacant. I have no interest in any of the scum that are renting a lot of the lower class, value add type properties that I'd be interested in typically. So hopefully that adds some value and shares what I'm looking at from my perspective as an investor, right? I do believe that there should be government housing for these people, and the government can share the burden of fighting with them 10 hours a week. Because I have tenants that literally would message and call, and they're such time sucks that you can't make any profit at all. Your property managers will quit because they don't even want to manage the building. That's how bad some of these tenants are. So you can't even find a property manager to manage some of these losers. They need someone from the government to walk behind them because, 1 in 4 have mental illness. It's just a fact, 25%. And those people are overrepresented in the C-class value-add type properties. You see too many of those people. The kind that flood bathtubs and ruin apartments and start fires and piss off other tenants and create issues for you. Anyway. Have I looked into real estate in Quebec? No. Quebec sounds horrible. I have no interest in investing in Quebec. Politically, and just in general, I looked at some numbers there and it wasn't that attracted to anything in Canada. To be honest, right now, it's just not that attractive. So what income level, I guess, William, I didn't finish the second part of your question. I just saw it here. I think at least 20,000 a month to be considered like in the Lux category. But with inflation, it's more like 25 or 30 now, really, to be, in a more Lux lifestyle. Welcome to Omicron territory, Brent says. Prevention is the best strategy. Stay at least 6 feet from persons outside your household. Wear a high-quality mask correctly and wash your hands before and after. All good ideas. In general, I don't enjoy people near me. In general, I don't enjoy people getting their breath or their spit droplets on me. So I actually like masks. I've been pro-mask for a while. Outside makes no fucking sense if people are more than 6 feet apart and people in their car by themselves. Some of this stuff's a little bit crazy. But yeah, it kind of depends on who you are, really. The lockdowns and these blanket bullshit statements don't make a lot of sense. If you're an 8-year-old child, you're not at risk. If you're a healthy 25-year-old person, I think the risk to reward for absolute safety is not there. The amount of benefit for you towards absolute safety, it's the same as saying you can't drive on the highway because your chance of dying is 1 in 10,000 or whatever. You know what I mean? If you look at some of the data around lightning strikes, or for a healthy individual, I have a higher chance at my age group and my health profile of dying from lightning, from getting on the highway, from choking on my food than I do from COVID. Admittedly, Harriet, I see a comment come in there that says about the high-risk groups. There are people who are old who have many comorbidities that are, like asthma and whatever else, and those could increase their risk profile. Now, there are treatment options that a person could implore that would help. I'm not saying ivermectin, but there are tons of therapeutic options now available, as well as natural ones that we know work, like zinc is amazing at reducing the reproduction and the severity. Vitamin C, also a great thing to have. Vitamin D, super important. If you look at, there's a great doctor presentation I found on YouTube. He's an accredited doctor. I'll have to find the link and share it with you guys. But he talks about some of the data we now have after 2 years. And a vitamin D deficiency, or a selenium deficiency, or a zinc deficiency is actually a higher risk of death than being old. So people think that being old is the worst part. The worst part is that you're fucking deficient in things that you need, like vitamin D or zinc. So it's important that we're taking mega doses of this in a healthy range. Don't go crazy, get your blood levels tested, whatever. But when you have, and if you have COVID, you need to be taking this shit, more of it. It's important. And talk to your doctors, and not, the problem is that most doctors are stuck in this narrative, and they're afraid to misspeak, and they're afraid to be sued. And I don't know, if you look at a lot of the data, you can see there are a lot of things you can do to protect yourself. Sleeping is super important. You need to be getting good sleep too. All these things you can do that would severely, severely decrease your chance of death. More so than doing none of those things and getting vaccinated. So if you don't exercise and don't eat healthy and don't take vitamin D and zinc and vitamin C and all that good stuff and selenium and all that stuff, if you aren't taking any of that and you just get vaccinated, you have a lower chance of success than if you did those other things. I would say do both. If you're in an at-risk group, 100%, get vaccinated and do all the other stuff too. But just being vaccinated is not enough. And being vaccinated itself doesn't do a whole lot for this new variant. We're talking between 10 and 40% effective, and it falls off quick. Derek, I slept a good 9 hours last night. And the night before that, I slept pretty well too. There was some interruptions with my kids, but I've been sleeping very well through COVID. I had a 2.5 hour nap today. I will sleep another 9 hours. I'm trying to do between 9 and 12 hours with 3 kids. It's difficult, so I'm napping with my daughter at the same time. But yeah, sleep's important. For me to kick the shit out of this, I need to be sleeping properly. That's a big piece of it, right? Melatonin is important at night if you have trouble sleeping. Anyway, there's a whole bunch of research out there you can read about and you can learn about things you can do to reduce the severity. There are risks with getting vaccinated, for sure. It's not risk-free. Taking a healthy amount of vitamin D, like a couple of pills of vitamin D, you know, some zinc, some vitamin C, etc., so forth. If Brent, oh, that's funny. Anyway, doing all that stuff, you know, preventatively, and, you know, increasing obviously the dosages within healthy levels once you develop symptoms and start to feel shitty is the most important thing you can do. And I think that's not getting enough news. Like, eating healthy isn't, they're like, have a free burger with your vaccination at McDonald's. Like, what the fuck? Are you kidding me? Like, close down gyms? The logic here makes no sense. The government narrative is crumbling. I'm surprised that there's so many Canadians apparently are in favor. I'm just gonna leave. Like, fuck it, I'm done with Canada. If this is how the majority of Canadians feel around lockdowns and focus almost solely on, you know, watching the fear porn on the news and then taking polls, leftist polls on those leftist sites, and then using that data to then drive decisions. So there's no real actual scientific data about COVID or how it's affecting us, or the fact that our current Canadian medical system has been maxed out since 2017. You go back, there's articles in 2017, 2018, 2019, no hospital beds, ICU 100% at capacity, 2018 flu season. We didn't add any fucking capacity, and a small breeze called fucking COVID came to Canada. And guess what? ICU beds, we need a little bit more of them. We need a little more nurses. They're like, no, fuck it. We're gonna fire all the nurses who are unvaccinated, who refuse to get vaccinated after 83 days. Fired. All the health professionals. Like, what? You're gonna cut staff? You're not gonna add facilities and add beds? We have free healthcare in Canada. That's why people are waiting 2 years for a surgery. That's why in 2018, 2019, I knew people who were leaving Canada to get surgeries because they would die on the fucking wait list. And yeah, it's bad now. And that's why the Canadian government's locking down, at least in part, is we have a failed single-tier healthcare system. That's part of why the lockdown's existing right now. We can't afford to open up. Even though it won't kill people, it'll fill our hospitals up, and our hospitals are overrun. They never had any beds to begin with. A fucking bad cold and flu season's gonna take us down. So Canada's just not set up very well. I would love a two-tiered system where I could pay for insurance or I could pay for private healthcare and get bumped up the list. I mean, I'm gonna probably leave Canada. Like, I don't know where I'm gonna go. I don't know if it'll be the United States. Most countries will take me because I'm wealthy. I can get in on pretty much anywhere I want using my wealth. So I have a lot of options, which is actually harder than you think, because where do you go? There's so many places to go in the world, and where's the best place to go? I don't know. Florida seems pretty good. Got a lot of connections down here, a lot of friends down here. I don't know. The tax system in Florida is not that great, though. You're still looking at federal taxes like 25 to 30%. At my tax bracket, like over 30%, which in Canada, it's 54%. So that is, you know, a 50% reduction almost in taxes. But I mean, it could be zero if I chose Puerto Rico. It could be like zero if I chose the Bahamas. You know, there's lots of options. So we'll see. I don't know. So Brent says, careful. Gradually reducing efficacy of vaccines against infection does not mean they're not being effective. Example, a 93% reduction against Delta, 70% reduction against Omicron, still high against severe cases. Well, I hadn't seen 70%. I'd seen significantly lower numbers. In fact, I saw one study that came out and said that those who were vaccinated had lower and weaker immune systems in general after several boosters. Were talking about ruining people's immune systems. And it could have actually the opposite effect of what we'd expect, and actually making people weaker over the long term. So that was an interesting study. I don't know, it hadn't been peer-reviewed yet, but it was interesting to read about that. And there were other studies that I've looked at and data that I've seen online that suggests that the effectiveness is like between 10 and 40%. Now, some studies are claiming a little bit higher. The fall-off rate is high, though. The majority of the population is not protected at the given moment. And so if you're like on this high horse of fucking, you know, vaccination, blah, 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 and you haven't been vaccinated in the last 83 days, you're the same as the unvaxxed. And in Canada, there's a huge divide right now. Like, Trudeau is trying to drive a spike between the unvaccinated and the vaccinated. And he's saying, hey, all these unvaccinated people are bigots and racists and anti-feminists and whatever. That's just not true. I mean, some people like me are pro-vaccine. I just want fucking data. I want to see that it's safe. I want to see it's been used on people for a couple years. I want to see there's a healthy conversation with my doctor about the risk and the risk and the benefit. The risk to the benefit. And I have that analysis, that cost-benefit analysis, right? And that takes time. And I'm not going to blindly trust the government who has a history of fucking with people and killing people, including the FDA and many other, approved government bodies up until like even the 70s, approving medication that was fucking killing people. Anyway, I'm glad that I have COVID. I'm so glad that I'm immune now. I'm done with this bullshit for the next year. Um, I'm glad it's almost over. And I think that it's killing more people, the fear and the isolation, the lockdowns. There's so many overdoses right now, so much depression. I'm not gonna avoid going to see a friend because the highway might kill me. Like there's like maybe 1 in 10,000 chance I get in an accident. That doesn't mean I'm not gonna get on the fucking highway. And the government, for damn sure, is not gonna tell me that I can't get on the highway to see my friend because there's a 1 in 10,000 chance I might die or I might kill someone else in my car on the highway. It's the same fucking analogy right here. Anyway, it mostly has to do with our healthcare system being shit. In the US, I don't know. I honestly don't know what's up with the Democrats. The left honestly there's some surveys I was listening to. And my friend Matt McKeever, if you check out his YouTube, he made a new YouTube channel, Matt McKeever Unfiltered, where he does a daily show called The Maple Pill. By the way, go check it out and jump in the comments and tell him that I shouted him out here and that you should check that out. It's fantastic. I love that he's sharing. He picks different news stories of the day, and he picks a clown one, a joke one, whatever. I haven't memorized his whole pills. I think there's a red pill, a blue pill, a white pill, black pill, clown pill. Basically where he talks about a different news snippet. And it's interesting to watch the narrative kind of unfold and how the opinions change over time. And I just go watch that and then dig deeper. I think it's important that you don't just listen to what someone says verbatim. Don't listen to what I say verbatim. What the fuck do I know? I'm not a doctor. Have I looked at some studies? Yeah. I question if some of our politicians have looked at any data at all. And some of the advisors that they're leaning so heavily on, this focus on absolute safety is, it might be costing more than it's helping. But I don't know. Sometimes you could lock down the whole country and kill 1,000 people to save 500, right? Like, that's the kind of shit we're dealing with here. 1/3 of people have been exposed to COVID already. More than 1/3 that we know of. It's going to be at a point where we've all been exposed. And then we can fucking move on, right? I'm still pro-vaccine. I would like more data. I think it's probably a good idea to get it. If you're over 40, probably get it. If you have at-risk stuff, get it. If you're young, it probably doesn't matter. If you're 20 years old, like, if you need it to travel, get it. I don't think the government should force anyone to do anything. And the more they force, I know there's a large group of us that the more we don't want to get it. If you have to force me to get something, that's a fucking red flag. You should be able to provide me with the data, and I should be able to make the decision. And if you don't push, and the data makes sense, of course I'm gonna get it. Like, this is so stupid. It just stinks. But the vaccine's probably fine. I mean, the chance of negative side effect is very, very low. Hey Mike, would you ever consider working at McDonald's part-time to supplement your income? Give you some extra spending money. I love that, Chuck Norris. In World of Warcraft, when I used to play WoW, there was, in the Barons chat, there was always be a Chuck Norris there. And there'd be Chuck Norris jokes. So I would love all the Chuck Norris jokes that would pop up. So that's the most, like, clown username you could have picked. I love it. Especially, it's so fitting for the comment. I used to work at Tim Hortons, right? A couple years at Tim Hortons in fast food. And I excelled. I got promoted. As a 16-year-old, I got promoted by the time I was 17. Because I just work harder than most people do. So McDonald's would be lucky to have me, man. But no, I will never do any job that pays less than $1,000 an hour. I don't want to say never, but like, with my set of skills, it's so easy to make $1,000 an hour that I have no interest in doing that. But I'll be honest with you, the favorite job that I ever had was working on the crew in Tim Hortons when I was 16 years old. I had a great group of friends. We would like be bumping the tunes, like just singing, having a fun time. I was the baker in the back. I do storefront, but I was the lead baker on the weekend. And it was just a fun time. Like a minimum wage job, but the best job I ever had. Like, enjoyed it more than my accounting job at KPMG, more than my 3 years in consulting, more than working at Canada Border Services Agency. I did internships. I've had jobs at the bank as a teller. Of all the jobs I've ever had, it was my favorite job. Super chill, really enjoyed it. Great people, good food. But yeah, the pay was shit. And I don't know. If money wasn't an object, it's a decent job. Especially if you have the right crew of people you're having fun with, versus like being isolated to your desk by yourself. It's just, Everything you say is exactly what you've been saying and thinking, what I've been thinking for years. Love it. Thanks, Douglas Dix. Healthy people have a higher probability of developing myocarditis from contracting COVID while unvaccinated than from the vaccines themselves. There you go. I haven't looked at that data, but if that's the case, then that's one of the risk factors addressed. I'd have to look at the data more, but I mean, if a quarter of people are going to get it, and it's like with the vaccine, you have a 100% chance of introducing yourself to that potential risk versus a quarter. So you're probably still worse off, probably still better off trying not to get it at all and avoiding the vaccine if you're young. But I have 3 young kids and I'm going to live life. Like, this shit doesn't scare me at all. I'm over being afraid. I'm pretty sure I already had COVID once earlier in 2020. All of my tenants had it in this triplex, and I was in there with them without a mask on during the start of the pandemic. And then my property manager took cash from them all, came into my basement, and sat 3 feet across from me. And we counted the tenants' cash. We reconciled the counts for 2 hours there, this close. I literally recall him spitting, and a piece of spit landing on my lip. And then the next day, he showed me a positive COVID test. So, and I got sick shortly after that. It wasn't the worst sickness. It wasn't as bad as this one with the muscle aches. But I've been exposed at least. Am I one of the immunes? By the way, there are people who are immune, who are being, have you seen those articles? There's some data now saying that people are being exposed to COVID and they don't come down with symptoms. There are the immunes out there. So and that's natural. There are gonna be people who aren't affected by this. Guess what? Mandates don't fucking apply to them. If they're immune, we should be studying them. And they should be allowed to do whatever the fuck they want, within reason. But I don't know. Probably get the vaccine. It's somewhat effective. It's getting less and less effective. At this point, it doesn't make sense for me because I'm immune now for 12 to 15 months. So, free! And I can now travel wherever I want, do whatever I want. I can show a positive test and I'm all good. Hey Mike, thanks for the advice. Investing in Florida isn't feasible for early stage incoming real estate investor guys in Ontario. I know landlords right now suck, but any markers Western Ontario that you'd recommend? You know, I kind of share all my thoughts there on Southwestern Ontario, but I think Airbnb is the way to go if you're going to invest in Ontario. Buy vacant buildings or buildings that you can get vacant, and Airbnb, 100% Airbnb. You're in control then. Juan, I'm so sorry to hear that. That you have 12 friends that died. That's horrible. That's statistically really unlikely. Like, your friends all would have had to been like overweight or having, a bunch of issues. That's horrible to hear. And who knows if the vaccine would have saved them too. That's, a few of them might still have died even with the vaccine. Sad and scary, especially with this new variant that's, very ineffective. The vaccine's very ineffective against it. Most of the people I'm talking to who are super sick, as sick as I am, are vaccinated. So it looks like it does dick all against this new variant. But yeah, I mean, of course, anything you can do to protect yourself. I have a friend who died from the second dose of the vaccine. Friend's dad, sorry. And I went to their funeral in Toronto. 63 years old. And second dose, 6 days later, died. So a heart issue, myocarditis, dead heart tissue or whatever. Didn't have COVID, vaccine death, but no one's going to label that. So what are all the people who he was a type of person who was isolated. He didn't have anyone come and see him. There was like almost no chance of him getting COVID, and he got the vaccine. And the vaccine likely killed him, and he wouldn't have gotten COVID otherwise. So that's an example of like, that was the wrong call maybe for him. So there is no blanket statement that it's right for everyone. For the majority of people, I think it's probably right to get vaccinated, no doubt. It provides some level of protection, and the risks are not that high, it seems, when you look at the data. Don't forget to get your COVID antibody count test. It will be either reactive or non-reactive to carry with you. Cool, that's a good idea. I should. If you had 250K in IBK margin account, would you start leveraging now? If so, what would be your strategy? So if you're gonna leverage, just make sure you buy the VIX. The market's been down big time. My portfolio's dipped my tech portfolio, because I have a stable portfolio that's up. It's all TSX stuff. But my smaller, stable portfolio that I share on from Interactive Brokers, that I share on my stories all the time, that one's my risky options tech portfolio. And that one's down 11% right now, or 10% in the last month. So that sucks. A 10% dip for me in that portfolio is multiple six figures. So it sucks when that happens, but hodl, it'll come back. Don't paper hand that shit. Use your diamond hands and hold. Yeah, is it a good time to average in? I think it's not a terrible time to start nibbling, especially in the crypto space. There's some real opportunities to start nibbling on some of the altcoins. Even Bitcoin and Ethereum's relatively cheap right now. I feel like, in 5 years, we're going to look back on Bitcoin and we're look back on Ethereum. Ethereum right now is like, from what, $3,000 a token? I think 10,000 is possible. We'll look back and be like, wow, it was so cheap. Just like in 2020 when Bitcoin was $3,000 USD or 3,500 USD a token. We looked at that and we're like, holy shit, it like 15x'd, right? So yeah, I do have some VIX calls. Interestingly, my VIX calls didn't pop that much. I have VIX calls for February 14th expiration, and I have $40,000 in VIX calls, and they went up $3,000. The options market makes no sense sometimes. I don't know, but I do have a bunch of VIX calls, and they're not working the way they're supposed to. Hopefully the VIX stays high into February so I can cash in. The closer it is to the expiration, the better. So I always have a little bit of VIX in my portfolio just to hedge. Despite everything else being down majorly, my VIX is up. So I'm making like 10 or 15 grand from my VIX. The VIX is generally the VIX is a good play mid-January to mid-March. There tends to be the most turbulence in a year around then. And then again, it's good in like November. So just saying, if you're going to try to time the market, selling VIX puts has worked very well for me. I've never lost money selling VIX puts. I've always had a day. If I did like 60 days out, there's always a day where I can close it out for a profit. In the 60 days, I set an auto stop gain. And so if at any point it becomes a stop gain, the gain is reached, it just sells off the VIX puts. Whereas the calls, I don't know, the theta decay has just been crushing me, right? Like 2 weeks goes by and like the value of those calls has decayed enough that it jumps 30% and the decay is equal to 30%. And so it's kind of annoying with the call options, I found, is just dealing with that decay, right? And timing it right. So I've been trying to buy them like 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days out. Jay Doe, who's asking about like markets to invest in, I still like London. I believe strongly in it. I do like pockets of Sarnia, where I grew up. There's a lot of shit in Sarnia though, and the prices have gotten crazy in Sarnia, so I don't know. Cap rates are better there, but the market's shittier, so. What else do we got here? A lot of the small towns around, like Pickering, or I don't know. There's a whole bunch of little small towns you can pick that if you wanted to get a higher cap rate, you could look at. Hey Mike, Mentor, yeah, I answered that one. You just gotta trust your conviction. So Jonas, the problem is, that's called timing the market. And it's impossible to pick the call's expiration date on a day that the VIX is way up. That's where you get the big money, right? Like the day that the calls are like getting close to expiration and there's a huge spike, that's when you make the most money. When you buy calls and you time the date right. But timing the future is, like impossible. But yes, I would use some leverage for sure, but I would definitely be hedging against that leverage, protecting it with insurance. And when are you inviting us? So if anyone's watching this and they want to come down in like a week and a half after I'm past the 2 weeks of COVID, I guess I'll be there in a week and a half. Yeah, feel free to come down. I got a guest room here. Jonas is welcome. He knows, he's watching. There you go. So people got some all-in-one ETFs. In my other portfolio that I manage that just tracks, so I have like 4 portfolios that I'm managing, and one of them that just tracks all the blue chip stuff. I just sell out of the money naked calls and run the wheel on it on quality stuff. I don't touch anything garbage. I'm doing 1% to 2% a month consistently. So that's my more conservative approach. And I would say that's a great way to do it. I'm trying to make it rich with my options portfolio, and it's been backfiring. Like, for instance, the Newegg short that I lost $500,000 on. Newegg was $70 a share at the point where I got squeezed out on my shorts. Go look it up right now. It's $8 a share. If I just held on, I would have made a whole 500,000 back and 500,000 on top of that. Timing the market, guys. You can be right. I knew Newegg was garbage and it was not worth $70 a share, but I didn't have the balls to hold, to time it right. Da, da, da. Okay, I think I got most of the questions here. My arm's getting really tired, guys. And I pushed myself here to go live for you for like almost an hour. Brian says, hey, Mike, what are the financing options you're seeing for Canadians looking to buy investment properties in Florida? I will give you this one tidbit. I'm with Bank of Montreal, BMO, private banking. And BMO Harris is very large. When BMO and Harris merged, Harris Bank, it became BMO Harris. And there are many branches in Florida and all across the United States. They have partnerships where I can buy with 25% down as a Canadian investor. So Bank of Montreal, private banking, good to go. They can connect with BMO Harris, all good. TD also has the same thing. You can open a TD US account and move money online for free between your TD Canadian and TD US account. If you had a Canadian US account and a US account, you could move money for free back and forth. So that's cool. Don't use the bank to buy currency. Obviously use like Knightsbridge or someone better to buy currency so you don't end up paying like a 5% currency transaction fee. It's $1.24 something right now. I just bought a bunch. I wish I had waited till today because it's down to $1.24 something. US dollar buys $1.24 something Canadian. So it's getting closer and closer to par, which is great. I'm gonna bring like half my net worth over to the USD if it gets any better. So anyway, I gotta let you guys go. My arm is literally asleep. Like this arm here is dead. Like there's nothing left in it. It's like numb. I'm not a big fan of Windsor. Windsor's rough as hell, and the valuations have come up. I liked Windsor more before the valuations went crazy, but I know other people are more bullish on Windsor. I'm not. Best area for families in Florida. I don't know. West Palm is nice, Nico. I like Central Florida too. It's very affordable. I'm going to go check out the West Coast as well. Go from like Cape Coral all the way down to Naples, and I'm very interested in that as well. My hedge is not big enough, Harriet, but I would say take 10% of your portfolio and hedge at least. It's expensive if you're wrong though. The market just rises. It's going to drag your portfolio return down. It's like insurance. It's a fee. It only pays if the market dips. Have you heard anything about the COVID shit ending by late March, early April at all? I'm hopeful. The UK government has removed all restrictions, which is great. Here in Florida, there are no restrictions. No one gives a shit. Like no one has masks on, which is actually a problem. There should be masks probably. But yeah, there's like no pressure at all. It's like pre-COVID here. No, you can't buy it as a stock, unfortunately. I wish you could. You just hold it and then sell it when it pops. No, you can't. There are funds that mimic it, but if you look at their long-term history, it just goes like this. Like if you look at the funds that copy the VIX, their long-term over 2 years is just straight down because there's always stated decay. So you have to basically just close it out when it pops. Because if you hold it long-term, it just goes down. It's like insurance. And that your losses are fees, effectively, for insuring your portfolio. But it does pop when the market dips. You got 20, 30% pop in a day. And if you put a little bit of money into calls like every week and did weekly calls, you'd get big paydays when this kind of stuff rips. Yeah, I'm not going to beat the OG Michael Burry. Although if I could short anything, I'd almost short the Canadian real estate market right now. It's on steroids and the interest rates have to rise. And valuations are making no sense. Is it the top? I don't know, but I'm selling. I've been wrong before, but these valuations don't make a lot of sense. Rents have to come up considerably, which means incomes have to come up considerably, and they're just not there. The economy is suffering in Canada. We have supply chain issues. Shit's gonna hit the fan at some point. Maybe it'll keep going another 20, 30%. I don't know. Hey, no problem. Happy to help. I think it can be better to trade options that are interactive brokers with a corp. I trade under a corp. I think it's better. It depends on your tax situation. There is no answer that's right for everyone. Thanks, AA. Can you buy a house with crypto? Yes, you can. Although, if you use your crypto as collateral and it dips 50%, which is the volatility possible in the crypto world, especially in smaller coins, but even in Ethereum and Bitcoin too, you could be margin called and lose that house potentially. So, careful. Someone says I have a house in Old East Village, 420K, mortgage 290. Yeah, I mean, you could just pay down the mortgage a little bit and then that would reduce the breakout fees. You can do 15% per calendar year, sometimes 20% per calendar year. So in theory, you could, you'd be able to get that paid down 30%. So that breakout fee could be reduced down to like $6,900, which is something. It is something. Anyway, that's what I've been doing. It's paying down all my mortgages and selling all my properties off. I'm about to have a big bag of cash. I will redeploy some of it into the US market. I'm looking to acquire with some partners between 100 and 1,000 units here, and continue to do what I do and buy businesses and invest in stocks and enjoy life. Anyway, next week I should be alive and COVID should be gone. So thank you so much for watching, everyone, and we'll see you on Instagram at Mike Rosehart. Follow me along there. I have 60 days left on my shadow ban. Yeah, follow along and see what I'm doing up in here in Florida, and I'll be here for a little while yet. Get down here, Jonas. Buy. You should short the VIX, actually. All right, see you guys.